Hello friends and welcome back to my channel and happy Christmas Eve to those who are celebrating. So I'm doing these kind of like New Year readings. So as kind of December ends and January begins, kind of what's changing, what kind of new leaf are you turning over and things like this. Cancers, I've been sat in your energy for a couple of days and you have this feeling of um it's like trying to reach something. I'm hearing reach a decision, which is literally the first card. You have the Two of Wands. But what I'm feeling more than reach, I mean, yes, maybe reaching a decision, that is what the cards are saying. But this feeling of like trying to reach a certain feeling or a certain place. It's like trying to recreate the feeling of something. Um, Kind of like for some of you, and you do tend to get this occasionally, there could be some kind of addiction that you've been dealing with, that you've been battling. It's not going to be for everybody, I'm aware of that, but it does come through for your sign quite often. That feeling, you know how people say like chasing the dragon. So it's like a state of bliss or a state of tranquility or calm or even meditation or something, some kind of not quite euphoric, but very, very kind of like blissful, peaceful, balanced state that you seem to have experienced in the past and you've been trying to recreate it or find it again. So for example, it doesn't have to be addiction, although that is coming through. And I don't want to kind of like shy away from it or say that it's not, because obviously that is something that people deal with. And a lot of the time it can be things like I don't know, people get injured and they are on medication, like pain relief, and you get addicted to the painkillers, right? There's a lot of reasons why people become addicted to certain things. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge that that is something that people experience for a lot of different reasons. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, and self-awareness is really important when we're making kind of choices about our own needs. So yeah, let's set that aside. So for others of you, it could be something like a certain relationship. So perhaps you've had a certain relationship in the past and this has been a very beneficial or happy or comforting relationship to you, right? Like spending time with certain people, it felt really good, you were in that kind of blissful state. However, perhaps for a variety of different reasons, that's no longer possible. Perhaps the relationship itself has changed. Perhaps that person's no longer with you. There could be a variety of different things, but it has that feeling of like knowing what you want, right? Knowing the way it feels and trying to find it. Now, for some of you, just because you've got things like this getting back to integrity, you have this feeling of, again, perhaps like, I don't know, falling off the wagon or falling back into bad habits, dipping back into your shadow. So a lot of you will know from my readings that I talk about shadow work a lot, which is talking about we all have a shadow, right? We all have a dark side. We all have the id inside us that kind of like wants to come out or tells us to do naughty things. And we have the superego, right? Or the higher self. And it's sometimes, well, we all oscillate between the two, right? We all sometimes give into the shadow. So it can just be something as simple and as harmless as, do you know what? I couldn't resist that cake, right? I know the cake is not good for me. You know, I'm trying to watch my health, and that's a really sugary cake, and maybe I shouldn't eat that cake, but I did, right? It can be things like that. It can be things that are relatively, you're not harming anyone else by eating the cake, but you know that it doesn't do you any good. Or it could just be falling back into bad habits of like, I know that I've done this as well, and a lot of you, I guess, can probably relate, but it's, it's not unusual for people to kind of like join gyms or get into good exercise and healthy eating habits and things like this in summer, but then when it starts to get cold, all you want to do is kind of like curl up in your duvet and kind of watch TV and eat hot kind of like carby food, because I think there is something quite natural about that. With like if you think about bears, right, they want to put on weight and kind of slow down the rate that they burn through energy to kind of survive winter when food is scarce. I think there's some kind of like caveman-like behavior that makes us do that. But yeah, you can start to look at yourself and think, oh, this isn't good for me physically. I've done the same. it's been too cold. And it's like when I'm all tucked up in bed at night or wrapped up in a duvet or all nice and warm and I'm settled, I don't want to get out of bed and do yoga. It's like I don't want to be cold. So I have found that I don't feel like I've been as strong recently because I've not been doing the yoga. I've not been going out on walks as much because it's kind of cold and wet and miserable. So yeah, I feel physically that not only have I noticed physical changes in my body, but also I'm getting lots of colds and things like that. So, and then again, that's the thing, the knock-on effect, isn't it? Of like when you get a cold or when you get like low energy, you just want to do something that's easy and satisfying. You don't necessarily want to eat a salad, right? So it's role. I feel like a lot of you Cancerians, and I've got that Cancerian North Node, so maybe that's why I can pick up on this. But I've got the feeling of you all kind of like going back into bad habits or bad patterns. Now, for a lot of you, you are definitely repeating ancestral patterns. Excuse me a second. Yeah, so a lot of you, it's patterns of ancestral behaviours. So things that you've adopted from family. And that doesn't mean that you've got a bad family or anything like that. It just means that you might have picked up on some of the bad habits of the family. So you have this on the underlying. So this is like the when I stop shuffling, your cards will come out and I look at the bottom of the deck. You've had the Queen of Wands. So I want to say this is you. Actually really enjoying life because you've got like happiness as well, like you being your Cancerian vibrant self, like Cancers, you can be the life of the party if you're in the right mood. Absolute life of the party. Very, very normally very good social skills in terms of empathy and feeling what other people need. So maybe you're like me, you're a bit socially awkward, but you can form those connections with people on an emotional level. You're very good at knowing, being able to read the mood of the room and things like that usually. So being the life of the party, going out having fun, looking for the bluebird, right? Looking for the happiness, but possibly overdoing it a little bit, I want to say. Because underneath that, you've got the Hierophant. So you've actually got the Hierophant kind of there and there. So I really noticed that behind the Queen of Wands was the Hierophant, which I thought was very interesting. With bakery as well, yeah, it could definitely be something about eating too many carbs, and that's not me judging, by the way. That's not me judging. I love carbs. Go carbs. But it's just talking about knowing yourself, knowing your own body, knowing what is and isn't healthy for you. And we're not talking about weight here or like the appearance of your body. We're talking about physical health and treating your body with kindness and with respect, and understanding that your body needs certain types of nourishment in good balance and all that kind of stuff. So again, not shaming anyone here for food choices. I absolutely would never ever do that. I'm just talking about if it's not cakes and food and things like that, it could be something else, right? And you'll know what it is as well. You don't need me to tell you. You'll know. You'll be able to just like stop and think, oh yeah, I have been overdoing it on that thing or this other thing. And it can be so many different things, right? It can be, I don't know, going out partying too much and not having enough me time. Or it could be the opposite, right? Having too much me time and not socializing enough. So there's so many different things that it could be. So whatever it is for you. So with this thing about ancestral, I'm really, really seeing it. So you have like the council and ancestral wisdom here with many masks underneath, which kind of is giving me like past life. I don't know if some of you are doing like past life stuff, regression, remembering, kind of like looking at your Akashic records and things like that. But really, I'm looking here at this, pop that one down a second, at the council, ancestral wisdom, and then you have this elephant card here as well, and then like sweat lodge, Hierophant twice. There's a lot of stuff that's really saying to me that perhaps you are seeking higher guidance, or you're seeking ancestral wisdom. Perhaps perhaps some of you are praying or trying to connect with ancestors who've passed over loved ones. Perhaps some of you are literally going speaking to grandparents, especially at this time of year when family tends to get back together and get around you. You could be looking to you had the song Wonderwhy by Wolf Alice, which was kind of giving me this questioning energy. They say, let me just get my notes. So they say babies growing up and asking questions. So it's like you are with the hangman being here as well, it's like maybe you've took a lot of things for granted, you know, a lot of your inherited wisdom, so customs, traditions, again, like accepted behavior patterns that are taken for granted. You know, this is how we behave when the family gets together. Starting to ask why, right? Starting to kind of like almost get like a higher perspective of, is this really right for us? Why do we do these things? Is there a better way of doing things? Do I want to continue these traditions that no longer feel that not that they don't feel right, but that you're questioning them? Or do I want to perhaps purify this situation and you know, keep the best parts and maybe let some of the things that are no longer needed slip away, something like that. It could be that you're asking questions about your ancestry. Where did I come from? You know, what is my DNA? What, you know, I've always, you know, when people do the ancestry test, I think I was talking about this in one of the other readings, and people think, oh, you know, as far as I know, my parents, my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, they all lived in England, for example. And then you do the DNA test and you're like 60% Irish or 60% African or 60% Argentinian or something. And you're like, wait, what? Where did that come from? So doing those DNA tests, I know that they can really surprise people. Because I was thinking the other day as well, there could be something about this with your reading about inherited customs. I went to uni, I did humanities, and there's not very many customs that go beyond, say, like 3 or 4 generations. A lot of the things that we think are customary are literally a few generations, like maybe like a span of 100 years or something, 150 years max. That's what makes a tradition. There's not many traditions that go beyond that. There are a few, especially in terms of like religious traditions, but a lot of customs are actually not as old as we think they are when we look into it. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking at. That's the kind of questions that are coming up, and I think it's normal for that to happen around this time of the year when we are engaging in customary practices, especially with the Hierophant card being there as well. Very much like you know, going to a church, going to a I don't know, some kind of group event where there's pageantry. So it could even be like a pantomime, right? So I went to a pantomime. It's a very traditional thing for people in the UK to do at Christmas time. It's like a theatre performance. It's very silly, very, very old-fashioned. Yeah, and you have certain things that are customary as part of that tradition. So it can be a lot of different things, but that's really what the Hierophant card is sort of saying to me there today. So, yeah, let's go straight to the cards then. You start the reading with the Two of Fire, which is the Two of Wands in this deck. I can't pick the card up. You could have something to do with playing cards, like literal playing cards. Again, that's a very typical thing to have around this time of the year. Maybe somebody's doing card tricks. Could be something with gambling. I was getting playing cards. So Two of Fire. A decision being made. Now, I want to say there could be something where in the past you have left this decision to other people because the girl is being carried by the giraffe, right? It's like you never took the position of authority here. You never took the reins. You always left this decision to other people around you. Definitely could be family. Again, it could be, you've got a few pentacles here, so again, it could be something to do with work or hobbies or the way you make money, skills, education, that kind of thing. But whatever it is for you, it's like this decision was put into the hands of others. Like other people carried you here, right? Other people made the decision for you. But you can see this giraffe, yes, he has a high perspective, and yet he's heading straight towards this ledge. They're both going to fall off this ledge. So I want to say, if there's a decision made specifically around your health or well-being, and you've left this in the hands of others, it may be that especially if you've got, what I'm picking up on now is like, especially if you've got some kind of family member or friend who kind of gets you into sticky situations or gets you into trouble. That could be a thing as well. But this elephant spirit is learn from the past, right? Learn from the past. Look for the patterns of behavior. Look for repeating cycles. Look at your customs, your traditions, your ancestry, and say, what do we need to keep here and what is no longer working for us, right? You can be the agent of change. And you can also opt out, right? You can opt out if you think this is not a healthy tradition. This is kind of toxic. I don't want to repeat this pattern. You have autonomy, right? And it may be difficult to do that, particularly if you live in a family or a culture where these traditions are very, very expected. It can be difficult to kind of sidestep those, and it could just be simple as like being ill that day, like, oh, I've got a headache, can't go, and I don't know, you'd have to figure out your own way around that, I think. But you've got a lot of respect for it as well. It's not that this is important to you. I can see that it's important to you. I can see that going to these older family members or elders or people who are high up and prominent in your community, right? The people who have that elder wisdom, they are important to you. You do value them. So it's not always that you're stepping out of that. Again, ancestral wisdom learned from the past. Like, again, it could be that these again, it's like the council members, the elders, your older family members, whatever it is, it could be that they're helping you to recognize the patterns that you're stuck in, especially if you've caught yourself in a loop. Like, they can see, they know you really well. If this is your immediate family, they know you really well. They've known you for a lifetime, so they're going to be able to say you do tend to follow that pattern of behavior. And it could be relationships, just because there's some of the songs that are coming through. It could be you always repeat patterns when you're dating, right? Or you always fall for the same traps in relationships, and these people can they love you, right? They're your family, they're your flesh and blood, so they can help you see that clearly. Although I want to just keep on that line for a second because it's here as well. So you're heading towards this sweat lodge energy. This is what you're moving towards right at the start of the reading. And then the sweat lodge is kind of saying to me, especially with the Hierophant, and I knew it's like, as an intuitive reader, as soon as I saw this, it was like going into the sweat lodge to speak to the elder. It was almost like like when people go and take like peyote and things like this, and they need like a guide, right? They need the shaman there to kind of like to oversee it, because they have the wisdom, right? They know what it's like for people to go through those experiences. And I'm not saying it's necessarily that. It could just be going into church, right? To go to confession or to speak to the priest and ask for wisdom and guidance. It could be going into the family home. Like the sweat lodge is carrying this energy of like, so yeah, I knew the Hierophant was going to come out after it, and it did. Basically, it's like, this is what, it's like you're going in to the council, right? You're going into this place represented by the sweat lodge to speak to these elders, is the way it's coming through. And again, I don't know specifically what that means for you. Again, it could just be going to your parents' house, your grandparents' house, right? And asking them, saying this is the situation. But it's coming with this energy of like sweating it out as well. So for example, for those of you where it is addiction, it could be that you're going cold turkey, something like that. Maybe cold turkey, maybe eating cold turkey. It could be a slip of the tongue. But yeah, it's like you're sweating it out, right? It feels like going into a situation that is going to be really uncomfortable. So maybe going to speak to someone and it's going to be an uncomfortable situation. Again, for example, if you were going to go to church and speak to the priest and do confession, it could be that you're very nervous going into that. You could be sweating. It could be that you are you have some anticipation about doing that. It's going to be a difficult discussion. That, I don't know, maybe there's going to be a few tears shed, but that it's something that you have to do. It's like you have to go in and speak to this this figure, whoever this is in your life. So this how do I want to go now? There seems to be something that you need to cut out. There needs to be something that you need to be quite precise about, and you need to be quite kind of cloak and dagger about it. Like this is something that needs to be swift, precise, clean, unseen. You have the dagger. Now I've got the sword and I've got the dagger in my own deck, and then you have the blade here as well. Now as I say, the dagger is compared to the sword, it's concealed, right? So swords and daggers, it can talk about a truth being spoken. Swords representing air and air representing communication in tarot and star signs and things like this. So it can be something that action that needs to be taken, or something that needs to be said, and it needs to be swift, it needs to be clean, and it needs to be not broadcasted. For example, because if this was the sword is a status symbol, right? If you think about like medieval times and things like this, a sword is a large object. Normally it would be bejeweled. It was used in you know, when the king was being crowned, they would often be given a ceremonial sword. So the sword is a overt symbol of ceremony. The dagger is something that's concealed. It's something that is kind of like on a needs to know basis. So again, with you having a decision to make and seeming to go into this consultation with this elder energy, I want to say that there could be something that you've been keeping close to your chest, something that you feel this is a private matter. You don't want everybody to know this. It's a truth or an action that is only going to be it's like you have a plan with it. It's like because it sort of talks to me as well, like of the scalpel. If you think about the scalpel, it's a precision thing. So it's like this is a precise moment of action or communication, especially with the blade showing here as well. Now, there seems to be a timing factor here. Again, this could be something that you've been waiting to say to a certain person, but you wanted to say it to them face to face, because you've got the Seven of Pentacles here. Now, the Seven of Pentacles talks about things taking time, making progress, there being a right time and a right place to do something or say something. And then you have this, the blade here as well. So with the blade, you can see there's these moons here, and it's looking to me, if I put these two cards together, it's almost looking to me, can you see how there's like this what would you call it, this sliver of light, right? There's a crack that's very, very purposefully built into this structure, and it's looking to me like this is it, right? This is as though this blade here is you looking through the crack, looking through the window, looking through the peephole at the moon, and almost using that like a calendar. So there could be something where you're using the moon as a calendar system, maybe a lunar calendar system, or there could be something almost like Stonehenge, right? If you know, like the henges around the UK, oftentimes at certain equinoxes, the sun will align between two pillars. So it's something like that with the right timing, right? It's like you're waiting for things to line up. And then there's something here as well with, this is looking to me like dream catchers. So I have one of those here on a piece of jewelry that my family gave me. So it's like going into this sweat lodge and possibly going through a withdrawal phase, or going into perhaps a deep meditation. This could even be like a meditation guide or something like this Hierophant. It's like you're being guided into an experience. And I want to say there could be, with this looking like dream catchers to me, it's like there could be protection around you. Maybe you are doing like protection spells, or this person's putting protection on you as you go through this experience, something like that. But then with the blade there as well, it's like something about like cutting through that. I'm not 100% what that means, but I wanted to mention it because it was standing out to me. Now, what's a little bit worrying at the start of the reading, and again, I feel like this is to do with the situation that you've perhaps found yourself in and that you're coming out of, kind of, because I see you starting with that kind of Queen of Wands energy. Now, there's something about this Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles should be working together, right? There should be collaboration, cooperation with the Three of Pentacles. This is what the meaning of the card is. Everybody bringing their own personal skills to the table to make something happen. Now, what is really interesting to me about this specific card is it represents wolves and this kind of deer, or I don't know, I think it's a deer. I get like deers and moose and things mixed up, but it is a deer, right? It's got antlers. So now, of course, the wolf is a family, right? The wolf pack is a family. And so I want to say the Three of Pentacles is representing these wolves working together. But what the wolves are actually doing is hunting this deer. Now, it's making me think of a YouTube video I recently watched about, I want to say it was Yellowstone National Park. I could be wrong on that. But basically, when humans moved in, they hunted the wolves almost to near extinction. I can't say it. So they overhunted the wolves. And as a result, you know, there was an overpopulation of deer, and although it had a negative effect on the wildlife and the equilibrium of that system, and so actually they started to reintroduce purposefully wolves to Yellowstone Park to balance out the ecosystem again. I think like because the wolves were taken out, right, the natural predator was taken out, the deer started to overgraze the land, which had a negative effect on kind of the flora and fauna of the place. So yeah, to balance it back out, they reintroduced wolves. So it is saying to me that especially with learn from the past, it's like you don't want to mess up a delicate ecosystem, right? You don't want to you don't want to interfere with nature, perhaps. There may be family members perhaps that cooperate in a certain way that you don't necessarily agree with, or that makes you feel vulnerable. However, removing them from the overall situation could have a negative effect that perhaps can't be foreseen until it happens. It's a sticky card, it's a sticky situation. I'm not 100% sure if I'm reading it correctly, but again, it could be that you do feel vulnerable. It could be that there's I don't know, members of the workplace or members of the family that you feel almost yes, they cooperate, they work as a team, but perhaps you feel like they're predatory towards you in some sort of way, like they make you uncomfortable, they want to take you down. I don't know if there's something that you feel worried about. So that would definitely explain to me why if you feel like you have to be a little bit cloak and dagger about this, you know, yes, you've got something to do, yes, you've got something to say, but you couldn't say it to these people because they're not going to listen, they're not going to take you seriously, they're going to see it as an attack. So perhaps this is why you're waiting to be alone with this specific person, right? Perhaps this is a boss figure, an authority figure, somebody with power and influence. Like you're going to go and speak to them about it. And this is the person that you're going to speak that truth to, because you perhaps need their protection. Whatever this moment is for you in the center of your reading, it then has purity next to it with the unicorn and getting back to integrity, the lost compass. So the Hierophant card in the upright is a card about integrity. It is about understanding the rules, knowing the rules, realizing that laws are there to serve the community, to protect people, to allow us to work in harmony with each other, which I want to say is why the Temperance card is here. The Temperance card is about, I'm hearing straddling two worlds, which I'll get into in a second. The Temperance card is about being patient, understanding that things take time, which you also have here with the Seven of Pentacles. But it's also a card about alchemy, about blending different energies together to create something new. But doing this with patience, doing this with wisdom, doing this with um, not in a rushed way, but um, in an attentive way. So yeah, absolutely. The Hierophant and Lost Compass. It could be that you are trying to take a situation that itself has become quite corrupt. You had the song Hotel California by the Eagles, so it could be that I don't know, maybe you work in a hotel and little by little you've noticed that maybe things have started to get a little bit corrupt. Maybe people aren't kind of maybe people are being a little bit sneaky. Maybe people are kind of being a little bit cloak and dagger in that situation, and you're like, this is not a healthy environment for any of us to be in. Let's purify the situation, let's cleanse the situation, let's get it all out in the open. Maybe the sweat lodge could be getting the family all together and kind of like talking it through and hammering it out and clearing the air that way. But yeah, I want to say whoever the Hierophant symbolizes, it could be you. They are doing this with a huge amount of patience. It's like they have the ancestral wisdom. They have seen these patterns before. They have seen situations rise and fall, right? So they know the signs and they know what to do when situations kind of get a bit icky. So it could be a situation where perhaps this is a family thing for you. Perhaps you do have a specific religion or culture where when there's family problems, you go and talk to the priest, right? Or you ask the priest to come round and they kind of oversee the problems, right? It could be something like that. It's not going to be that for everybody. The Temperance card with this kind of like mid-transformation energy. Of course, the frog is an animal that lives half its life in the water, right, as a tadpole, and then they can actually choose when they transform. It's not a time thing. Frogs can actually, if they, perhaps the water that they're in is particularly rich with food, and perhaps it's too hot or too cold or too dry or something on the earth. It's like if it's better for them to stay in that habitat, in the water, they will continue to be a tadpole for longer. However, perhaps if there's a lot of predators in the water, or perhaps there's not a lot of food in the water, it can speed up the progression that they turn into a frog, and they go up into land and they live in that environment. So I want to say there's something where perhaps this decision you're making is about moving between different environments, two different settings. Perhaps you are transforming or in some sort of way, but you're just trying to work out where is the best place for you right now. Because I want to say the place that you've been in perhaps is starting to feel quite uncomfortable, and it could be that it's now time for you to move on and explore something new, which with the spirit of the river, movement towards adventure, I want to say there could be a choice to leave a situation that felt, especially with sweat lodge, like constrictive, or like there was a lot of pressure there, right? It's like almost like if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. It's like maybe you need to get out of the kitchen and do something else. So with purity, again, with this purification process, and again, I feel like it could be physically for you, and it could just be something like oh, I've drank too much over Christmas, I need to kind of like sweat it out my system, I'm going to have a really hot bath, I'm going to go to the sauna. Could be something like that. But this purification, and it could be some kind of purification ritual as well, so maybe something like a salt bath. Maybe this is something you do as part of your wellness routine, whatever it is. But it's freeing you from this very compressed, heated, uncomfortable situation into something that feels a lot more like free. With the Hangman as well, it's like there could be, you've got a lot of stuff about things moving very, very slowly. Again, if you're waiting for a situation to change, you could have to be very, very patient, because you've got Seven of Pentacles, Temperance, and Hangman. So all these cards that are about patience and slow moving, things being tied up, seeing things from other people's perspectives. So I do want to say that there's a perspective shift with you. And the wonderful thing is that with this perspective shift, and again, it could be something that somebody says to you, right? It could be somebody, it could be that having this discussion with this person or with this, I don't know, your family, the priest, whoever it is, it could just be somebody who is particularly, could be even be like a HR person, right? If this is work for you, you know, somebody who knows the rules. So it's like having this discussion, having this meeting, and getting, I don't know, it's like talking it through, clearing out the gunk. And this could just be your own personal gunk of like what you're uncomfortable with in that situation, and then going into this integrity and purity and cleansed energy. It's opening you up to this what feels like very powerful radical acceptance, because you have two cards together at the end of the reading that both say acceptance. So beloved, radical acceptance, and starry night, acceptance. So this person seems to be helping you with excuse me a second. It was just my son. I've been wrapping the Christmas presents, and I was saying to him, like, you see that the biggest present, that's for you. So he seems quite happy with that. He's like, I'm going to stay up all night. And I was saying, are you going to catch Santa? He was like, Santa's not real. I don't believe him. Santa's totally real. Okay, so beloved, radical acceptance and starry night acceptance. So it feels like whatever discussion you have with this person, and again, it could be that this person absolves you from your sins or something like this, and whatever it is, it could be that they help you understand the situation. So if there's a situation that's been very difficult for you, they could be helping you to find some, not accepting things that shouldn't be accepted, right? But that feeling of like, I accept that I can't change the past. I accept things as they are. I accept that, yes, that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, and this is where I am right now. So it's almost this reality check of like really seeing the situation clearly for what it is, but changing your perspective, I guess, especially with this lost compass, right? It's like a resetting. It could be a reframing of how you think about the situation. Now, what's interesting too as well is on the underlying of the Animal Spirit Oracle deck, you have Vulture Spirit, nothing is wasted. And I feel like this could be part of the radical acceptance. I don't know. It feels quite profound. You do feel like you're going through this, again, with the Wonderwhy being the first song that came out. You do feel like you're going through this almost like existential crisis, or it could be that you've been finding it hard to deal with a loss, or I don't know what it is, but there's this discussion or this moment, this perspective change, this release. And it feels like it has a huge impact on you because you have this thunder here as well, right? Beloved, radical acceptance, starry night acceptance, and thunder. It's like it's with thunder. It feels like it's having a big impact inside you. It's like the thunder is inside you, I want to say. And with acceptance, I want to say this is how you gain balance with the Two of Pentacles, this balance of the light and the shadow, right? The balance of your higher self, your super ego, and your id. I want to say radical acceptance. It could definitely be something about accepting. It feels like the kind of discussion that you have about yourself where you say, look, with the Queen of Wands isn't a negative card, by the way, but just something about these two cards together. It's like, look, this is the situation I found myself in. Let's have a talk about my entire life, right? Let's get everything out on the table, cards on the table, right? This is where, these are all the mistakes I've made. These are all the moments that I acted badly. These are all the moments that I wish I had taken a different route. But then this Hierophant could be saying to you, but you only took the route that you were able to take at the time. You didn't have the perspective that you have now to make a different decision. You made the only decision that was possible in that moment because of your purity, because you didn't know any better, because you hadn't learnt the skills yet. And there seems to be this this forgiveness and release that seems to be happening in this moment. My tummy's rumbling, excuse me, sorry for that. But it seems to be having a really profound impact on you. And I want to say there's something about self-acceptance, beloved, like finding spiritual acceptance, like something like that. It does seem to be that whatever the Hierophant is representing in your life, it seems to be a very positive impact, and a very they're helping you see the good in yourself, right? They're helping to see if you've lost integrity, if you've lost sight of, if you don't see yourself as innocent, if you see yourself as having led a somewhat corrupt life, this person is showing you your own good again, right? They are showing you, reintroducing you to your inner child or something like that. It feels very profound. Yeah, so it's bringing you back into balance with the Two of Pentacles in that kind of yin yang energy. Yeah, it's helping you to make a decision, and it's bringing you to happiness. So yeah, it feels like, it has that feeling of like hurt people. And if you've hurt people in the past, it's because you were a hurt person. Changing that cycle. So I don't know. I hope this reading is really, really helpful to you. That's kind of like where it wraps up. Let's get you a sign from Spirit. So how is Spirit going to talk to Cancer for the next couple of weeks? Can we get a totem, a symbol, so that when Cancer sees this emblem, they know that Spirit is trying to guide them and give them messages, and get them to have a deeper look into something. So it could be that you see this and you pay more attention to your own thoughts around that time. It could be that it happens to me sometimes when I'm going for a walk. So I'll go out for a walk and my mind will drift, and I'll just be thinking kind of, like your default setting where you just kind of like think about things, but passively, like subconsciously, and I'll see something and it'll be like a white feather, and it'll almost be like, this is a sign from Spirit to validate what you were thinking, like, yes, you're on the right track. So when you develop these kind of signs and symbols with your own guides, you'll get better and better at reading them and feel more confident that you understand what they mean when you see them. But anyway, so something for Cancer for the next week or so, the soil. So again, I'm not going to try and interpret it. This is for you. The soil, okay, whatever that means to you. And the Guardian is on the underline as well, so that's really, really lovely. I do feel like you have a protector around you in some way, shape or form. Okay, I'm just going to go to, let me just check my notes that I didn't miss anything. So FKA Twigs 2 weeks, the words that jumped out to me were, I know it hurts, you say you want me, I say you can live without it. I got this thing about something being inscrutable or mysterious, or you're being inscrutable or mysterious. Yeah, okay. Any time of year you can find it here. So again, it doesn't have to be you, it could be somebody that you're dealing with. I remember, I don't know if it was one of his, I don't know, it was Russell Brand, and I don't know if it was in one of his books, his bookie book, or if it was something he said. He could have said it a couple of times in various different places, but I remember him saying something about, because he did have a drug addiction, and he said you can take the person out of the setting, you can take them away from, the people who, if you take them away from the group that they're hanging around with, or you take them away from the dealers, if you take them out of the environment and put them into a completely different city, it's like they can still find the drugs, because they know they know what the dealers look like. They know, it's like they know where to find it, because they find it in similar places, even if they're in a completely different city. So that's what that line was kind of saying to me. And it doesn't have to be drugs, right? It could be, I don't know, if people are looking for a little bit of company, it's like they know where to find it. Any time of year you can find it here. So again, it's like, even if it's Christmas, I don't know, like there's still places that are going to deal in illicit behaviors that may be self-destructive. So I would say watch out for that, especially with like yourself, your friends, your family. And then we are all just prisoners here of our own device. So we keep ourselves trapped in these cycles. It's our own shadow, the choices that we make, and it's a choice to it's a choice to free ourselves from that as well. I don't know if that means anything to anyone. I don't mean to be really preachy, right? I'm just reading what comes through. Everybody's going to make their own choices at the end of the day. Can we get a song, please, that's going to have a big impact on Cancer, that's going to make sense to them, that is going to give them a light bulb moment? Unchained Melody. So it's the Likey Lee version, but it's oh my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long lonely time, and time goes by so slowly, right? And time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. Godspeed your love to me. Lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. Lonely rivers sigh, wait for me, I'll be coming home, wait for me. So a really beautiful song. Perhaps that song has a specific meaning for you. I'm going to leave it there. Take care of yourselves, please, Cancers. Seek help from, if you need it, from those who are going to love and protect you and point you on the right track. Even if you're not sure, it could be worth giving it a try. If you feel like you've fallen into bad patterns, bad behaviors, and you need a little bit of extra guidance, that's what those people are there for. So good luck. And again, it could be that you're dealing with a family member like this, so that's always really hard, but everybody has their own path, and we're supposed to make mistakes, because like, what would be the point of being born perfect? If we were born perfect and we never made a mistake, we'd never learn anything. We learn from our mistakes, right? We learn from, and sometimes we have to make that mistake again and again and again and again for it to really hit home, right? Sometimes, do you know, I even like, it's a silly comparison, but it's not really. So I've been doing Duolingo and learning Italian, and there's specific things that I just keep getting wrong, and I get frustrated with myself because I keep getting this thing wrong, and it's like, why haven't I learned yet? And there can be some parts of the course that I find really, really easy, and I breeze through and I retain that information easily, and then there can just be some bits that just, it's like I just cannot get that in my head, right? I just cannot get the hang of it. Today I was kind of like doing it, and it had one of these practice ones where it kind of like, it was a hard practice, and they gave me the stuff that I find difficult, and I failed. I went through all my 5 little hearts, and I didn't complete the lesson, and I was frustrated, but I was like, I still know that was worth doing, because making the mistakes over and over again is teaching me where the mistakes are being made, for a start, right? It's like, I know that is something that I need to work on now, and every time I make the mistake, I do learn from it. Eventually I'm going to get it, and the reason why I know that eventually I'm going to get it is because there's things that I was learning earlier in the course that were equally as hard, that equally would trip me up every single time. Like, literally, I make that mistake 50 times over and over again, and but I now find those things easy. I did learn. I stopped making those mistakes, right? And now I'm making new mistakes, which shows that I'm learning. So I don't know if that's helpful as well to anyone, but again, it can just be a perspective change, a different way of looking at something. And that doesn't mean make the mistakes intentionally, right? But it's like, if you have made a mistake again, you're learning. It's part of your growth. All right, take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Bye, friends.